too excited about being this good.
Alright. It's going to be the gender flow. Then the respect flow. Then the global ethics flow.
The 1NC and 1NR were an anti-democratic genealogy about debate that focused on gender. Starting point is key. They have conceded that even though it is not a direct univocal causality of where oppression comes from, that we need to introduce the idea of gender because it is fundamental within the idea of democracy. They have never answered the democracy link argument to the Wendy Bryan evidence, which is a disadvantage. To the 1NC, there's no permutation in this round between the alternative to add focus on gender as a way of genealogizing debate solves literally every one of their arguments. His extension to a solvency deficit to this alternative is the clever evidence, and then they've conceded that you should reject this evidence because they unhighlighted the part that describes the sexist persecution within democracies itself, and the figures of liberalism. The Gibbons and Klein evidence indicates that this is a reason to reject the team. However, it's definitely a reason to reject the argument talking about two women is not talking about gender. That is a different focus. Additionally, the total 7 words of the 1AC that mention gender does not a critical analysis make, which is what the alternative calls for. They do not meet the threshold starting point. Additionally, we do not create some sort of censorship threshold argument. Our argument is simply that the alternative is a superior option, is functionally a floating pick, which they have no permutation to and no solvency deficit of. If there's any offense that we win, you vote negative now. The agent debate at the top. They have conceded that if you specify an agent, you develop a better strategy for liberation. That the reason that teams like the Fort and Louisville was successful because they started with the agent of the judge that needed persuasion that determined whether or not their persuasive speech act was criteria valuable in changing the practices within the debate community and determining the critical reaction of their opponents, or whether or not they had a stable advocacy throughout the year, which enabled research about critical liberation strategies, i.e. it changed people's minds through the process of pedagogy and research. They conceded our commissar evidence that the best type of education in the debate, which means that no valuable life impacts or amorphous claims about what meaning constitutes anything, should be evaluated as better than that if it's re-explained in the 2AR. Everyone always says value to life is resilient, take an act, you'll feel better later. There's no such thing as meaning that can be objectively quantified. It wouldn't be measurable against education anyway. They cannot make any of these impact claims. They are not key to anything. Debate is in no danger either from them or for us. Debate will survive, or it won't, but that does not matter for the context of this round because they've conceded that we are not a future debate. The alternative to specify the agent of the 1AC solves all of their offense. Treat this as a counterplan with conceded permutation. There is a net benefit that is a D-rule, and they have no answer to this argument anytime in the debate. They did not say the word commissar or institutional agent choice or why that education is not good. Therefore, you should presume conceded offense and a reason that solves the entirety of the affirmative. Now, the global ethics argument at the top. I know this is sort of a cheap shot, and I'm extending a lot of these, but they concede our counter-advocacy to Fisher the meaning of the 1AC. The net benefits of this is that it ruptures the logic of debate flow technique. If the flow is bad, then you vote negative, which means that if we lose every argument in the debate, you should still vote negative on a conceded fucking counterplan and net benefit. Now, at the top, they concede the counterform solve all of their arguments. The fundamental problem with the 1AC is they have neither a ballot key nor winning the debate key argument or definition of what it would mean for their argument to be successful, which means we can't test it because we can never make an argument that a genealogy doesn't solve. It is always already solved by being a quasi-accurate description of the world. They have set the burden too low for themselves. They have simply said the debate changes all the time and that historical norms are continued. No shit, we can agree with that, but that's not a reason you should win the debate. They've conceded that the minimal demand for a normative justification for an ethical engagement is key to global solidarity, which is the only way that we can access a sort of knowing of other people. Otherwise, we continuously navel gaze. Look, maybe inclusion of other people is bad and it does lead to violence, but writing them out of debate research is probably worse because we remain ultimately ethically ignorant of them, and that allows us to perpetuate the same type of ethical cleansing and genocide and imperialism either. It's not like all of the people who go out and do those things are like, sort of like liberal tree huggers. They are also people who just generally want to take a bunch of other people's oil and are playing deep power politics, which means that their argument is not exclusive to the type of liberal pedagogy that Baudrillard criticizes. Now they have conceded 3 pieces of Carlson evidence that the foundation of selfhood is an ethical engagement with otherness. If they do not achieve this, then there is no possibility of being in the world. There is no possibility of achieving value. You do not even have a vessel to put that value in. They've also conceded the internal link that engaging in global solidarity research via the pedagogy of the 1AC, which describes the ability to at least relate to other people's oppression who are from different cultures is not a form of inclusion, but rather a form of positive identification whereby you create a radical passivity within yourself. Our Carlson evidence indicates that this is the foundation of compassion, which is the only possible reason for action in a world of meaningless violence, which means there is no justification for affirmative violence to the point where they void the notion of ethics because they simply leave us in a world where there is where we are lost in an infancy of total darkness. Now they say we are not, there is no univocal agent, or we are all agents. However, that is precisely a reason you should specify or have some sort of ethical norm. They never articulate any difference between like the audience, the judge, the ballot, or why having an ethical norm of our resolution is good, which means there is no we meet argument that can function in the 2A or possibly re-explained. Hold the line on all of these. They are all reasons to reject the team that were flagged in the 2NC, and they've conceded that you should judge the debate, ironically enough, through the doctrine of conceitedness, i.e., if the 2AR is always allowed to just make up or reinterpret new arguments, then the 2AR would always be able to win the debate for affirmative, which is independently a voter for fairness. Now, they say role-playing is bad. We never role-play. We never said anyone should. Our argument is that you should adopt and engage in a pedagogy of ethical norms. They say that portable skills are bad. They have conceded our link out to this argument that you get portable skills from doing shit like genealogies, which allow you to become talented at research. Genealogies in history would allow you to ultimately become co-opted by an institution like the RAND organization. This argument was conceded, even if the argument that we are also portable skills wasn't, which means that they can win that argument, and still you take the difference. Now, the slave morality debate. This is where the 2A is probably going to sit, so I want you to think about three key things. First is there's no way that the 1AC can resolve any of these slave morality arguments. Second is that they have no interpretation of what subjectivity means outside of the other, i.e., what does value to life mean? Is it just us having happiness or autonomy or freedom from other people, or is it us doing what we want all the time? That is a pedantic, hedonistic form of existence which simply sucks the life out of other people to achieve our own ends. Are we morally pure? No. However, we should at least identify with the struggles for oppression of people in different cultures, because that is a way we can at least articulate a positive vision of selfhood, where even if we are not perfect, we are always a process in becoming other than ourselves. Becoming is foundational to otherness and elimination philosophy, which is why you should privilege this argument in solving all of these other arguments. And last is that their evidence links themselves because they are also a struggle against oppression, which means they are the sort of slave morality they criticize.